you've tried some of these speaking tips and you're still not speaking, here's the answer. It's not one tip to unlock them all, to rule them all. It's first step. First step tip. That's what you need to be figuring out. And I don't think people know your situation, which is obvious. They don't know you. So they're kind of generalizing about a general situation rather than thinking about your situation, which is all fine. Tip is really useful. You have your situation, and all I'm going to say is that there's a middle step, which is kind of you having a little bit of a debrief about your situation and then deciding, ooh, which of these tips is going to be the one to unlock it all for me. And I've got 7 reasons for you. 7 points for the having a little chat with yourself. The first is skills. Is this a skills thing? Is it that, I don't know, maybe you've got English as a second language and you really what you could do with you is having some thinking on your feet training or some good and bad habits. What are good and bad habits? Because I don't feel like I'm sounding very clear. That's kind of specific in terms of the skills. Next is practice. It might just be that you've got to kind of embrace the cringe. Turn the camera on or say something and then make a mistake. One of the things I found really useful for the practice side of things was how to recover from making a mistake or being misunderstood, which kind of links to skills, but it's you use it for the practice, and that was the thing that unlocked it for me. Number 3, this is why I call the low-hanging fruit. If you're not speaking, this is one of the ones that have a little chat with yourself first. Is it about rules of the room? Because it's possible, it's really confusing as to whether you're allowed to speak, whether they want you to just repeat their ideas, or whether you're allowed to come up with connecting the dots and something original. So the rules of the room is, I call it the low-hanging fruit, because it's possible you don't have to watch any more videos. What you really need to do is ask the tutor or ask your boss what's expected in this meeting. Am I expected to comment, or am I expected to move the thing on fast? So rules of the room is a really good one. Number 4 is perfectionism. What can we say about that? I think it's really useful to just have a chat with yourself and think, what am I comparing myself to? Am I comparing myself to somebody who's been working here for 10 years and seems really comfortable in this room? When I'm just figuring it all out, I'm learning a new job and different things like that. So have a little chat with yourself. Is it perfectionism? Because then when you're looking for a tip, you may want to direct the tips from that way. I don't have much experience with the whole perfectionism thing. I do have a thing. I think I procrastinated, but I think it was a lot of confusion rather than trying to be amazing. It was just like, I don't understand why this is so hard. That was where I was coming from. Number 5 is different processing. It may be that everybody's super quick around you, and that may be skills and practice. But it may also be just actually you quite like to think about the subject beforehand, maybe write it out and just process or percolate and think about things. And, not everybody's going to be in the room coming up with dazzling ideas. It may be that your role in that room is to slow things down and say, can you explain it again? This is one of the things I say is use the exact same words, because sometimes when you ask somebody to explain it again, they use different words. And I'm like, no. I just need that moment. Something in what you said was reaching me, but not quite being understood. So sometimes I like them to say, can you repeat that again using the exact same words? So you need to have a chat with yourself. Is it just that maybe you need that extra few seconds to process it? And then, as I say, going back to the rules of the room, is it that you need to double check how to make that work in that speaking situation? Number 6 is consequences. And there's a lot of conversation at the moment about freedom of speech and the consequences of saying the wrong thing. It's broader than that. I think consequences is, sometimes you feel like, oh, if I say something about this, I might look just completely stupid, or I might have said the wrong thing, or different things like that. I think that's a different fear and a different kind of pathway for tips than, say, how to think on your feet and something like that. I think you need to stop and address that. If you're worried about the consequences, it could be a really real fear that you might lose your job if you say something, or you may look stupid in front of a group of people. And I just think, slow it down. Are there consequences? Is this kind of an understandable thing? And then you move forward with your tips in terms of how best to work with that. Number 7 is anxiety. Anxiety, I left this till last. Anxiety, it wasn't a thing when I was younger. We didn't talk about having anxiety. That was more in a medical field, but it seems to have grown. And it may be that in your situation that it is more the medical end and that you need some support with how nervous you're feeling. But it may be on the other end where you call it anxiety, but there's bubbles and feelings and different things like that which are unpleasant to deal with, but not necessarily the anxiety that comes under medical help and support. If you need medical help and support, that's completely different. One of the things I noticed in a recent survey is the biggest answer was anxiety. People were saying that's what's holding them back. But they always paired it with one of the others. They said anxiety and skills and practice, or and anxiety and I'm worried about the consequences. I'm wondering about saying the wrong thing and different things like that. So anxiety tends to be anxiety and, unless maybe you're in that medical group where you need professional support, and then that's completely out of my wheelhouse. I don't know anything about, sort of the formal diagnosis of different things. Only to say that people were clicking that as a response about anxiety when they actually was included a lot of other things. So I'm guessing that any anxiety that you feel, wherever it falls in that, could be made worse by gaps and barriers in the rest of things. So if you're finding that there's not one magical tip that's going to solve everything, I'm guessing that it's that you need the first step. You want to unlock that first step. And it may be that the tips are bouncing around all over the place, and probably a lot of them are in the skills, but you're like, I don't know whether that's allowed in this room. And then, I don't know whether the consequences. So my advice is, before you jump onto the tips to look for the magical tips, decide first which of the 7 is actually the thing that's going to unlock everything. That maybe if you knew a little bit or had a little conversation about perfectionism or consequences or practice or skills, then that would lead you to a pathway of tips that are actually actionable for you and things that you can do. So good luck with that. Bye.